I've already done plenty of gushing on how much JoJo fashion is so incredible ahead of its time and has certainly served as an inspiration for my personal style, but a character in particular that really stands out to me and I think transcends time is Rohan Kishibe. His individuality, his avant-garde flair, and his boldness in pushing fashion boundaries. Let's get into what makes him such a fashion icon and even still relevant as far as style today. Hola, my name is X, and I like to experiment with fashion as well as talk about whatever the hell I want on social media whenever I feel like it. And in this video, we're going to explore some of the main reasons why Rohan Kishibe is such a fashion icon and touch on a few points of his personal style. Then we're going to take a look at his persona as a character and see if we can identify some real-world parallels. Then we're going to move into some emerging fashion trends that Rohan Kishibe would easily be able to lean into. And then we're going to conclude with how could we further project Rohan Kishibe's fashion influence into the future. All right, let's talk about some of those main reasons why Rohan Kishibe is such a fashion icon. One thing that we can immediately see is that he has very bold geometric shaping to his different outfits. That's conducive to some great color blocking, as well as sleek but also dynamic silhouettes and outfit compositions and structure that helps give him some differentiation from outfit to outfit, especially knowing the variety of outfits that he has within his wardrobe. And what would a fashionista be without proper and strong accessorizing, which he is definitely exercising with his staple headband and earrings, but also ties, belts, necklaces, suspenders. Love a suspender moment. And I would even say his sketchbook is a strong accessory from time to time, which only ties to his identity and his occupation, making for a well-rounded personal style. But oftentimes it's not just the clothes that do the work in making someone so impactful with their fashion. It's the attitude, it's the personality, and it's the confidence, all of which Rohan certainly has, exuding through his plethora of aesthetics and looks, especially when you're dressing in outfits that are unconventional, pushing boundaries, and out of the box. You need to be self-assured in what you're working with. Self-assurance and self-confidence and esteem are what really assert and cement one's personal style. Otherwise, it looks like the clothes are wearing you, you aren't wearing the clothes, and he is absolutely rocking the different garments that he has. He knows his taste, he knows his body, and he knows how to present himself. Having strong qualities expressed through your outfits is not only a great way to elevate them, but also a great way to use them as a vehicle to express who you are at core as a person. Rohan is an artist, a creative genius. He's a successful businessman and entrepreneur. He has it going on, and his clothing certainly expresses that, not only through, like I said, accessories like the sketchbook, but also just the unique arrangement, the willingness to experiment and put different pieces together, which is I think a lot of what an artist would do. Like, you have to go through drafts, you have to try different things to create compelling stories and give people a engaging visual experience, all of which we can see written all over him with the different mixing and matching of clothing items and a very rich and luxurious and sophisticated and unique wardrobe. And further expanding upon the note of boldness, we already know that Araki drew inspiration from the high fashion world, Gucci, Vogue at the time, etc., all those kinds of different houses and entities to bring his characters to life. And we can certainly see how Rohan's style and aesthetic parallels some of the design and collection choices within the late 1980s and early 1990s runway fashion shows. I'm thinking designers like Gianni Versace and Jean-Paul Gaultier, just a couple. Of course, many, many more. Even like Yohji Yamamoto from the early 1990s, I would say. Just the interesting, dynamic, and dramatic silhouettes, the bold choices with some body confidence, but also prints and colors. So much great creative expression. And the final reason why I think Rohan is such a fashion icon is because he has the range. I've said many times before how I think a true fashionista is someone who is not limited to one aesthetic or genre and is not too one-dimensional. They can ebb and flow and flex into a variety of different looks, and they just aren't limited. There's no boundaries. And we know with how far he pushes the boundaries anyway, Rohan has the spectrum. he can give us youthful, bold, street style, body confident looks, but then dress it up and give us successful businessman with button down slacks, but then also can give us a nice casual athleisure moment. Something functional and everyday. He is not afraid to dress how he wants, whatever occasion fits his mood and his creative vibe. Those are just a few reasons why I believe Rohan is a fashion icon, and I'm sure that people can come up with many more. But now I want to hone in on his persona as an artist, as well as his style and extension, to see if there's any real world artists or characters that have parallel to some components at the least of his persona and style. As I was saying, Rohan is a creative genius. He's eccentric, he's eclectic, and he's very passionate about the work that he does. And fashion is an art, and so naturally we can expect an artist to take their appearance and the different ways in which clothes come together seriously. And we can kind of see this as far as owning a Gucci bag, as we see when Rohan goes to Gucci, or even just when he visits the Louvre. He is all about that world and celebrating it and dabbling in it. And we know that real world artists very much do the same. And so when I think about some artists that maybe have at least some parallels to Rohan as far as style and unique expression, thinking on more the classic angle to start, we have David Bowie and Prince. I definitely see Rohan maybe having some bits of hybrid elements between those two artists. David Bowie with a little bit more of that sophistication, but definitely something that's eccentric and explosive with personality, color, and boldness. And same thing with Prince, really, although Prince offers a little bit more body confidence, definitely dabbling more within the crop top realm. And then as far as maybe more contemporary artists, I could also see a bit of a hybrid between Harry Styles and Troye Sivan. Whether Harry Styles was very true to some of his style experimentation, but I definitely see that Rohan is experimental with his styles. And then Troye Sivan is also very expressive, edgy, but definitely has a layer of more modest sophistication to his looks. And then a fictional character that I was able to identify, which I thought was a bit interesting, was Lestat from Interview with a Vampire. And some people have requested for me to take a look at the outfits in that series. All right, now that we're very well acquainted and familiar with Rohan's signature and personal style, let's think about some emerging and modern trends that he could easily lean and flex into, as well as some runway fashion designer shows that he could even walk in. A prominent and I think well asserted trend that we're seeing men dabble in today is maximalist wear, and that comes through the form of bold, strong patterns and colors, but I think also wide and dramatic and unique silhouettes and layering. It's a great way for men to experiment, try different fabrics, clothing, structures, really just explore what kind of arrangement of fashion or ensemble that they're comfortable with. And knowing that Rohan's very big on experimentation and already had some bold, distinct color blocking, this would definitely be a place where he could thrive and even push the needle further. Then we have the revival of Y2K, which I think is becoming pretty evergreen at this point, whether it be further making use of cutouts in various clothing garments, playing around with asymmetry, or just like visual juxtaposition and contrast more broadly, or even just utilizing the full spectrum of metallic and hardware elements that are being cultivated these days. I think Rohan would have an absolute time dabbling in the full inventory of options that Y2K revival is lending and contributing to our fashion evolution. But then also the concept of gender fluidity, which I've already touched on within my past JoJo outfits in general. I think that he already can be considered to be somewhat androgynous within his taste and style, just with how people are pushing the boundaries and how there's becoming less boundaries in general with what people wear and how they dress between men's and women's wear. I think that Rohan could easily float between so many different looks and aesthetics, and even influence people on both sides of the spectrum as to how they express themselves and pair different pieces together. Now let's look at some real world fashion designer runway shows that have parallel to Rohan's style, and are some shows that I could easily see him walking in if he were a model today. Starting with Gucci's Spring Summer 2025 collection. I've already explored this within my Metaphor Refantasio video, but especially knowing that Rohan went to Gucci, this feels like a fit. And just the use of some sheer kind of knit items, bold colors, dramatic silhouettes with some of the jackets. And even though we don't really see him depicted in shorts, I don't know if like at all, it would be great to see him dabble in a little bit more of that and just kind of play with the different layering that this show has to offer. Then we have Prada's Spring and Summer 2025 collection. And I really love this for him because I feel like there's some dabbling in some crop tops, just showing a little bit of some belly, even though I think that Rohan would push this even further. Interesting silhouettes with some of the jackets. I definitely feel like he plays well with baggier pants, but sophisticated kind of tops and elements, and this is definitely within his playground. And I don't recall too much like fall winter wear within Rohan's wardrobe, so Dolce & Gabbana's fall winter 2026 collection I think would be an interesting choice. I've seen some looks with some typical kind of jacket, long jacket silhouettes that he could easily wear, but then there's also I think a look with some tall boots and like a beret or a hat, just interesting accessorizing, as well as more progressive, exaggerated silhouettes and structures and textures that could easily add more dimension to his wardrobe and his collection. And then kind of along those lines, the Emporio Armani 2026 fall winter collection, lots of luxury, lots of texture and sheen, but also there's some looks that have that kind of jacket or coat where it's buttoned at the top, but then opens up for a dramatic silhouette, and even has looser slacks, which I feel like definitely has overlap with Rohan's style, but puts him in a bit more of that contemporary category. Then a couple of more experimental and alternative brands that I think are really pushing the boundary in men's fashion aesthetic and align with some of the more kind of edgy or bold outfits that Rohan has had in the past. We have Stefan Cook. Really more so over the past few years, there's some shapes within the cutouts of like sweaters or vests that definitely reflect some of the shapes of cutouts we've seen in Rohan's most iconic outfits in my opinion. Plenty of body confidence, but also similar silhouettes, some cropped elements. And then there's the GmbH Spring Summer 2025 collection that I think absolutely screams Rohan Kishibe, with some of the structure of the garments in the collection, the baggier pants with some like noticeable metallic buttons, out of the box thinking, something very bold and in your face. So outside of emerging trends and runway fashion shows, how else could Rohan continue to thrive as a fashion icon in our modern times? Obviously, we would see that he would have a significant cultural impact as far as cosplay is concerned. If he is out here rocking all these different designer outfits and dabbling in all these emerging trends and even being one step ahead, we already know that the cosplayers are going to be emulating him, reflecting him, celebrating him for all of his style glory. I mean, beyond what is already being done today, some of the looks into some of the extents in which people go to really reflect the Rohan style is remarkable. And so we definitely could expect to see him well asserted within the culture in that regard. But then also when we think about some popular futuristic aesthetics that have resonance with us, how could we really assert him within that realm to make sure that he's staying one step ahead? Sustainable, innovative fabrics. He could easily have placement there, and even with his creative influence could probably push those movements and those developments even further. But then thinking about cyberpunk, we could easily adorn him within some of those elements, but giving it a little bit more of that refined fashion flair. Think about a runway fashion show where there's like holographic elements as part of the clothes, or those great neon LED light components and accessories, and of course plenty of metallics and hardware. He would absolutely thrive, and he would probably be even named Model of the Year. But also I could see him coming up with his own designer fashion brand in general. So many people are getting the inclination to develop their brands and express their innovative, unique vision across social media. And especially just with social media, we know that he would absolutely garner the followers, which could make way for being a great ambassador for various brands within the designer fashion world, but also his own brand, allowing us to bask in the full glory of his creative genius. All right, that is my love letter to the fashion icon Rohan Kishibe. If you didn't already respect him as the strong fashionista that he is, I certainly hope you do now, given his confidence, individuality, and bold aesthetic. Let me know, what kind of outfits could you see Rohan dressing in, and what would be the name of his designer fashion brand? Would love to know your thoughts, but of course, until the next video, I'll talk to you later.